headlines. It's back to business at the National Assembly after nearly a month of boycott by the opposition party. Yet the rival parties are expected to clash over a string of contentious issues, including a pension program for senior citizens. President Park Geun-hye decides to accept Welfare Minister Jin Yong's resignation after he defies her repeated call to stay and help end public anxiety over the government's welfare policies. In the U.S., the clock is ticking, and the government is set to shut down on Tuesday if Democrats and Republicans fail to strike a deal on President Obama's controversial health care reform. Well, these stories and more next on Primetime News. Good evening and welcome to Primetime News. It's Monday, the last day of September here in Korea. Live from Seoul, I'm Yoo Ji-hye.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thank you so much for joining us. We begin with President Park Geun-hye's acceptance of the resignation of her welfare minister, Jin Yong. On Monday, she backtracked on an earlier move to reject Jin's offer to take the fall for revisions to her senior pension program.
He is the first cabinet member of the Park administration to step down, and her prime minister is now deflecting speculation that a major shakeup is on the way. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
President Park Geun-hye accepted the resignation of her welfare minister Jin Yong Monday evening amid disagreements over a new pension plan unveiled last week. In an apparent criticism of Jin, President Park had urged her cabinet members and senior secretaries to have a sense of duty in pushing ahead with state affairs.
어려울 때일수록 국민을 위해서 최선을 다하고 각자의 임무에 충실할 때 국민들에게 신뢰를 받을 수 있을 것입니다. 비판을 피해간다고 문제가 해결되지는 않습니다. 당당하게 모든 문제를 해결해낼 수 있다는 의지와 신념이 결국 그 문제를 해결해낼 수 있는 것입니다.
The president's critics say that Jin's move demonstrates that President Park is struggling to resolve differences on key policies with related ministries, and some speculate that a cabinet reshuffle may not be far off. But Prime Minister Chung Hong-won dismissed that speculation outright and added that he regretted Jin's, quote, irresponsible move to step down. Over the weekend, Jin reiterated his intention to step down and told reporters that he had opposed and still opposes the idea of linking the new basic pension program with the national pension. Under the new basic pension plan, only the lower 70% income bracket of senior citizens aged 65 and above will receive up to 200,000 won, or about $186. However, even for those in the bottom 70%, basic pension payments will be reduced in accordance with how long they have contributed to the national pension system, with 1 in 10 receiving as little as $93. President Park had pledged to provide the maximum pension to all Koreans in this age group, regardless of income level. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
At the National Assembly, lawmakers got back to work this Monday, ending a month-long period of inactivity due to a political tug-of-war over a number of outstanding issues.
From President Park's pension plan to the welfare minister's resignation, the rival parties are expected to lock horns over the next few weeks. Our political correspondent Kim Yeon-ji reports.
The National Assembly convened the first full-member meeting of the first regular session under the Park Geun-hye administration on Monday. This puts an end to a nearly 1 month-long period of parliamentary inactivity, and the rival parties are expected to clash head-on over a string of contentious issues going forward. That's precisely what happened at the first meeting of the Parliament's Health and Welfare Committee Monday. First, President Park's Health and Welfare Minister Jin Yong, who over the weekend reiterated his intent to resign from his post, despite the president's refusal to accept his resignation, failed to show up for the meeting. The welfare minister was quoted as saying on Sunday that he had opposed and still opposes linking the new basic pension plan for seniors with the national pension program, announced by the government last week. His absence prompted opposition lawmakers on the Welfare Committee to launch an all-out offensive against the government's pension plan, saying it's a bad plan that even the president's welfare minister and one of her closest aides cannot agree with. Meanwhile, the committee's ruling party lawmakers argue that the welfare minister's absence is regrettable, but that their job is to focus on why the government had to scale back the pension plan and how they should move forward. On Tuesday, the National Assembly will hold an emergency hearing to question the government about why it scaled back the pension plan for seniors, retreating on a major campaign pledge made last December. Lawmakers will also focus on finding out what prompted the sudden resignation of the nation's top prosecutor, Choi Dong-wook, who officially ended his term on Monday. Kim Hyun-ji, Arirang News.
It's a busy week for top military officials from Korea and the United States who are gathering for a series of significant defense talks on pending bilateral issues, which include the transfer of wartime operational control. The discussions kicked off on this Monday, and our Defense Ministry correspondent Han Da-eun has the details.
Top military officials from Korea and the U.S. came together for the 38th Bilateral Military Committee meeting in Seoul on Monday, with a wide range of pending issues on the table.
Tomorrow marks the 60th year since Korea and the United States signed the Mutual Defense Treaty. It's very meaningful to hold the military committee meeting at a time like this.
During the closed-door meeting, Korea's chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Chung Seung-jo, and his visiting counterpart, U.S. Army General Martin Dempsey, have reportedly agreed on the need to delay the transfer of wartime operational control from the U.S. to Korea, originally slated for 2015. The issue is not yet resolved, as Seoul is awaiting an official response from Washington. Defense Minister Kim Kwon-jin asked U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel for a delay in May, citing increasing missile and nuclear threats from North Korea. Monday's talks were held as a prelude to the Korea-U.S. Security Consultative meeting set for Wednesday, where the issue will be further discussed by Hagel and Minister Kim. But officials predict the two are unlikely to come up with a conclusion this time around, considering the numerous inherent complications involved. Right before departing for Korea, Hagel had also told reporters it's too early to decide on a possible delay of the UPCON transfer. Also part of the agenda was discussion of a customized Korea-U.S. deterrent strategy against North Korea's nuclear threats. Although the details have yet to be disclosed, Generals Chung and Dempsey have reportedly finished drawing up a specific deterrence plan, which is expected to be finalized by the military chiefs of the two countries at Wednesday's Security Consultative meeting. Han Da-eun, Arirang News.
And over now to the latest in relations between Seoul and Pyongyang. The Secretariat for the Two Koreas Joint Committee for the Inter-Korean Kaesong Industrial Complex opened its doors on this Monday. The permanent body, which will be stationed at the North Korean border town, consists of both South Korean and North Korean personnel and will serve as a communication channel for the management of their joint business park. Officials held their first meeting this morning to exchange ideas on how the Secretariat should be run. This comes amid dampened inter-Korean relations following Pyongyang's sudden postponement of planned reunions for families separated since the Korean War.
On Tuesday, Korea is set to celebrate the country's 65th Armed Forces Day with a grand national ceremony in the capital, Seoul. The Defense Ministry says the parade will feature displays of some 100 military vehicles carrying Korea's latest weapons, while about 4,500 troops will be marching along. Prior to the parade, there'll be a ceremony at the Seoul Air Base in Gyeonggi Province with the participation of President Park Geun-hye and the military chiefs from Korea and the U.S., Kim Kwon-jin and Chuck Hagel. You'll want to avoid using both sides of the roads near City Hall, Seoul Station, Jonggak Station, Namdaemun Gate, and the Sejong intersection, as they'll be partially or completely shut off to traffic from 1 to 5 p.m. And here's more on the celebrations. A military fair will also be held this week that aims to raise public awareness about the Korean military and provide them with hands-on experience. Our Kim Hyun-bin was on the scene and brings us this report.
The Korean military is having a fair in downtown Seoul this month to give the public a glimpse of what active duty soldiers go through during their roughly 1 year and 9 months of service. Hosted by the Ministry of Defense, the event is being held in a year filled with military milestones and aims to educate people about the service by inviting them to participate in some fun activities.
This year marks the 65th Armed Forces Day, the 60th year since the Korean Armistice and the 60th anniversary of the Korea-U.S. alliance. This is a festival not only for the military but for ordinary people.
They had all the latest military gear on display, and the best part for some people was they got to try it all on for themselves.
My dream is to become an officer. It was fun to experience it here, but the pack is heavy, so it's a little tough.
Most popular was the snack corner, where there were several popular military snacks up for grabs.
What I have in my hand is gundaeria, a military-style hamburger, which is a very popular breakfast item among active cadets. At this fair in downtown Seoul, ordinary people could get a little taste of what it's like to be in the Korean military.
Even foreigners were in for the ride.
I got guided here by some tourist information. We tried the food and the uniforms, and we saw the pictures. It was kind of cool seeing Korean's military history. Very informative.
The fair is scheduled to run through October 2nd. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
And some positive signs on Korea's economic front. The country's industrial output grew at the fastest pace in 9 months in August, while manufacturers' business confidence also went up for the second straight month in September. Hwang Ji-hye has the details.
Recent figures indicate that the Korean economy may be on the path to recovery. Statistics Korea said Monday that the nation's industrial output expanded in August from a month earlier, growing at the fastest pace in 9 months. Industrial output, which includes production in the mining, manufacturing, and gas industries, rose 1.8% last month, following a 0.3% fall in July. This indicates that local manufacturers were backed by firm exports during the period, since Korea acts as the production base for some of the world's largest manufacturers of automobiles, ships, and smartphones. Exports in August, in fact, grew over 7% from the previous year, the strongest showing in 7 months. Production in service sector also grew 0.7% in August from a month earlier after a 0.4% drop in July. And it's not just the latest output data that have raised expectations of improved economic conditions. The Bank of Korea said Monday that Korean manufacturers' business confidence this month posted a 3-month high of 75, up from the 73 tallied in August. The upward trend is a good sign, but a reading below 100 still means that local manufacturers feel more pessimistic about the economy. The central bank said that local automakers and shipbuilders especially gave optimistic views about their business operations. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
The clock is ticking down on Washington. The U.S. government may face its first partial shutdown in 17 years.
And that's if lawmakers deeply divided over President Obama's health care law failed to reach an agreement on an emergency budget plan before Monday midnight. Park Ji-won reports.
The Republican-controlled House of Representatives passed a temporary budget plan early Sunday that includes a 1-year delay of President Obama's health care reform, more commonly known as Obamacare.
Let's postpone it for a year. That's what this vote is all about. Will you accept the compromise? If this government shuts down, it's because you have not accepted the compromise that Republicans have reached out to you and offered.
A shutdown is not a tactic. It's not a strategy. It is a failure for this country. Let us not be the country whose representatives cannot work together to fulfill the most basic function of government.
If lawmakers fail to reach a deal before Monday midnight, when the current fiscal year expires, a partial government shutdown would be unavoidable, with some 800,000 workers in non-essential government offices put on unpaid leave. The Democrat-controlled Senate will most likely reject the budget bill that delays President Obama's signature health care law. The White House also said the president would veto the legislation if the House bill managed to pass the Senate.
As a shutdown is less and less likely to be avoided before its deadline, uncertainty is rising on markets. Although U.S. markets have managed to get by during previous partial government shutdowns without any major catastrophes, experts warn that if the shutdown is drawn out, the potentially negative impacts could be huge. Meanwhile, experts say no matter how long the potential shutdown continues, it won't affect the timing at which the U.S. government will reach its debt limit. Treasury Secretary Jack Lew has said earlier that the U.S. will reach its debt ceiling on October 17th. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
For more on the looming government shutdown in Washington and its implications on the U.S. as well as the Korean economy, we bring in Dr. Kim In-chul, professor of economics at Sungkyunkwan University. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Professor, unless the U.S. lawmakers come to a compromise soon, a government shutdown seems imminent. Based on past scenarios, how long do you think the shutdown will last?
Well, I don't know exactly how long it's going to last, but considering the fact that the confrontation of the disagreements, between the two chambers of the Congress, one is the Senate and the other the House of Representatives. Now, I mean, it's not easy to understand, how the Congress is working because, the Senate is controlled by the Democrats and the House of Representatives is controlled by the Republicans. And the Republicans do not like Obama's Medicaid or Medicare program, whereas Democrats and the President Obama strongly want their Medicaid program to be implemented. And there have been negotiations between the two Republicans and then Democrats, but till the last minute they haven't come to a compromise. So it is very likely that the U.S. will have shut down. But that doesn't mean that every door of the government is going to be closed.
So how much will this internal struggle in Washington damage the still struggling U.S. economy?
Yeah, because so many federal employees would not be working, and programs, perhaps some government contracts or programs would be delayed or postponed. So this is going to damage the U.S. economy to a great extent. Not only that, if the U.S. Government goes wrong, like they really have a crisis and say extending its borrowing capacity, they're about to breach the debt limit. Then that's going to cause more problem on the economy.
Well, in the event of a government shutdown, how will that affect the Korean economy? Will there be contracts with the government that are put on hold? And how would it affect the U.S. forces stationed here?
Well, it's not going to have an effect on the U.S. military people stationed in Korea because, military personnel is very sensitive. They're the ones who defend their country and the properties and life of the people. So military people will not be affected at all by the shutdown. But economy-wise, the Korean economy is going to be affected because the shutdown of the U.S. government is going to cause some volatilities in the exchange rates, and also that's going to cause some downgrade to the creditworthiness of the U.S. So that's going to immediately affect the value of the dollar. So as the exchange rate changes, perhaps if the currency, the Korean currency, becomes stronger, that's going to be discouraging the Korean exporters. So the Korean economy is going to be affected by the U.S. shutdown.
Then how should the South Korean government put up its guard?
Well, relatively Korea is somewhat insulated from the U.S. shutdown in the sense that the Korea has been running a trade surplus most of all. And so we have a room for, defending our markets. So we can, the exporters still can, carry out their export activities even if there is sign of currency strengthening of the won. Still, we need to monitor, closely watch what's going on in the U.S. politics and the U.S. economy, because the U.S. economy is this locomotive, and pulling the global economy forward. So when something goes wrong with the U.S. economy, that's going to affect our economy and our life as well. So that's what we should do.
All right, Professor Kim, thanks so much for giving us a sense of what to expect.
Thank you.
Over in the U.S., Major League Baseball's regular season has finally come to a close.
Which means it's time to look ahead to the postseason, and Stephen Che joins us now in the Sports Center for a preview. Stephen.
Hey guys, the postseason will kick off Monday in the U.S. with wildcard games and features teams that two prominent South Koreans play on. In the AL, the Rays and Rangers will play in the tiebreaker to determine who will play in the wildcard game against the Indians, with the winner set to take on the Red Sox later this week, while the Tigers play the Athletics in the Division Series. In the NL, Chujin-soo and the Reds will take on the Pirates for the wild card, with the winner going against the Cardinals, while Lee Hyun-jin's Dodgers will take on the Braves in round one. And to get a little bit ahead of ourselves, if the Reds and Dodgers take down their first round foes, it would set up the first Korean batter-pitcher showdown in postseason history. And moving on, the Korean Basketball League held its 2013 rookie draft ahead of the regular season start in just 2 weeks. The LG Sakers with the first pick chose the College Basketball League MVP Kim Jong-gyu. In the meantime, KCC took Kim Min-gu with the second pick, while Dongbu chose Do Kyu-min at third. And just like that, Geunhye University's Big Three went 1, 2, and 3, showing the strength of the school's program. And coming home, it's time to talk about Monday's top KBO matchup. The Seoul City rivals, the Doosan Bears and the LG Twins, faced off at Jamsil Stadium. Both teams jockeying for a position in the playoffs. Going to the second, it's the Bears' Kim Jae-ho, who doubles to bring one home. Then 2 batters later, Ho Kyung-min bats 2 more in. It's 3-0 Doosan. They add 2 more later. And now we go to the 6th. It's the Twins. Lee Byung-gyu hits 1 home. Next up, Jung Sung-hoon does the same. It's 5-2, Bears still up. Both teams add a few, and the Bears go on to win this one with a final score of 7-3. And looking at the scores from around the league, Kia blanks NC 3-0, Lotte over SK 7-1, and Samsung beats Hanwha 9-2. That does it for me here in the Sports Center. This has been Stephen Che. Check back at midnight for the latest in the world of sports.
Now let's go over to our Kim Bo-kyung at the Weather Center. So today was cloudy in the morning, but sunny in the afternoon.
Yeah, but I hear there's more rain in the forecast later this week. Bo-kyung, tell us more.
Yes, Ji-hye, it is expected to rain on Wednesday, and after the rain, temperatures should drop even more. Moving on to our satellite map, the country will gradually be under the influence of a high-pressure system that is moving east from China. This is why we're seeing clear skies throughout the nation. Currently, Gangwon province is getting some light rain, and this round of sporadic rain should gradually come to an end tomorrow morning. Other than that, tomorrow is shaping up to be a sunny one with average daytime highs reaching 27 degrees. Taking a closer look at tomorrow's numbers, Seoul should hit 26 degrees and cities down south will make it to 27. Moving on to other regions, Daejeon and Jeju should both reach 25 degrees and rainy Mount Kumgang peaks at 13. As there will continue to be a big gap in temperatures between the day and night, please be sure to grab a jacket or thick cardigan before you head out. Well, that's all I have for you this hour, but join me for another update after midnight.
And that's our broadcast on this Monday night. I'm Yoo Ji-hye in Seoul.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thanks for joining us. Have a great evening. We'll see you soon.